passion, the glory, the excitement, the dawn of a new season of college football. The game's brightest star shines again in Tennessee.
I was that close to leaving.
One of the game's future stars headlines a battle for bragging rights in West Virginia.
If I stay healthy, I got a show to put on.
Showing up in big games is what the top title contenders must do. Our crew is primed and ready. College Game Day 97 is set to kick off. It's a home game on opening day for College Game Day in front of the sparse but normally supportive home crowd. Chris Fowler along with Lee Corso, who coached more bowl teams than Newt Rockne, and Kirk Herbsreit, who played in more bowls than the other Golden Boy, Paul Horning. You can look it up. It's true. There's an asterisk, but it is true. We're ready for a new season. Guys, this season, we need them or not, we got 2 new bowl games, 24 new coaches. It's Eddie Robinson's swan song, perhaps Joe Pa's milestone. Florida's turn to attempt a sequel. The Orange Bowl's turn to sweat out a title game. And an army full of hopefuls ready to claim the title of Cinderella 97. Lee, what have you seen on the field so far?
Well, Syracuse's win over Northwestern was very impressive, or Wisconsin, excuse me. The thing that impressed me the most about them was the fact that they've now scored over 30 points in 12 consecutive games. But Kirk, their defense, they were much quicker than I anticipated. You've got to be a pretty good football team to beat Wisconsin and no points.
Yeah, they moved around on defense. That was a surprise. We knew about their offense. For Ohio State on Thursday night, I think they learned the hard way that it's not that easy to replace 3 offensive linemen, 8 defensive starters. They not only missed the ability, but more importantly, the leadership. Now, there's one thing the coaching staff will not tolerate anywhere, and that's a lack of intensity. And this team didn't show any on Thursday night. They got to crank it back up.
They had to let you talk to him, Coach Cooper. Yes, lecture. Will OSU now drop in the polls? They were one of 9 teams that got some first-place votes. Split between the media and the coaches here because the coaches rate the Gators first, and while 15 vote Washington first, some have them way down there. The media's have Penn State the team to beat. They have less faith in the Huskies. Tennessee would get many more votes if they didn't have to go to Gainesville. The Huskers don't have many believers outside Nebraska. They're using it as motivation. The Tar Heels are a trendy pick in the AP poll, and for some good reasons, and someone out there may be rethinking their Ohio State first-place vote. For once, no team appears invincible. The contenders each carry a big question mark or 2 into the season, like unproven players or unfriendly schedules. Who's the team to beat? And that's a tough question, even for a wise man.
I've never considered myself smart enough to pick a number 1. I'd rather have somebody else do it, and then I can hum and haw and mull it and disagree with them.
Disagreement over number 1 is sure to continue this year. Questions surround each of the major contenders.
Whether or not we can repeat as number 1, that's awfully hard to do.
Can untested sophomore Doug Johnson do the same for the Gators in 97?
It's unusual, a team losing all of its experience at quarterback would again be considered so highly.
If we're good enough to get through the SEC championship game and we're playing for it, then at that time we'll say, hey, fellas, we got a chance to repeat.
Co-number 1 Penn State also has a new face at QB. 5th-year senior Mike McQuarrie. They also have a favorable schedule. Rivals Ohio State and Michigan both travel to State College this year, and Joe Paterno is in sight of win number 300. Washington has no quarterback concerns. Brock Heward returns with 6 starters on offense.
From our standpoint, things are bright and happy, and it's a great change from where we've been. We're back because we have good players that have stuck with us.
But opponents sometimes stuck it to the Husky defense last year, i.e. Notre Dame and Colorado. Are they now stout enough to stand up to Nebraska in 3 weeks? Florida State, for once, finds itself without any proven tailback and minus pass rush studs Renard Wilson and Peter Boulware. In what he's called his biggest rebuilding year ever, Bobby Bowden faces his toughest schedule ever.
Southern Cal away, Florida away, North Carolina away, Clemson away, Virginia away, and then you've got Miami at your place. I think the fact of who we're playing and then where you're playing them makes it going to be very tough for us to stay up there.
The Noles' 10-year streak of top 5 finishes is in danger.
New year, even bigger expectations for Peyton Manning and Tennessee. But once again, Florida remains the roadblock. After coming within a quarter of playing for a third straight national title, the Cornhuskers are suddenly being overlooked. Concerns include an unproven secondary, the durability of tailbacks Amon Green and D'Angelo Evans, and road trips to Washington and Colorado. The Buffaloes have big names to replace, but expect a tougher defense and a stronger running game. They'll need both for visits to Ann Arbor and Austin. Could 97 be the year of the Tar Heel in football? The nation's #1 defense returns 9 starters. But are they ready to take the final hurdle, slay the Seminoles November 8th, then survive Death Valley the following Saturday? The great debate begins.
No, this year's victory dance will be at the Orange Bowl or the Rose Bowl in the final year before the Super Alliance kicks in. Back, Kirk, to the media pick preseason, Penn State. When you look at all of the recent national champions, they have one thing in common: the big play guys, the ability to strike very quickly.
Yeah.
And there's some concerns about Penn State in that area.
Well, that's the big question mark with this year's Penn State team. Do they have the speed on the outside to balance the offensive attack? We know about the running game. And the other thing, what about the quarterback, Mike McQuarrie? I had a chance earlier in the week to talk with Fran Ganner, their offensive coordinator. He says people are going to be surprised with Joe Juravicius. He's tall at 6'5", but he also has deceptive speed. And the other thing about this quarterback, Mike McQuarrie, he's an intense guy. He's waited his whole life for this opportunity. The coaches feel comfortable with him. And don't forget, this Penn State offense is an offense that doesn't demand a lot from that quarterback. Play smart and play within yourself, and you can make things happen. I think Mike McQuarrie is going to have a good year.
Well, Kirk, the type of offense dictates the role the quarterback has and how much pressure on him. As we said before, the Florida quarterback's got to throw the football, call automatics. They count on him to win. At Penn State, hand the ball off to the tailback, get out of the way, and don't do anything stupid. Also, there's a direct correlation to the amount of pressure and who you follow and the results. The Florida quarterback follows Danny Werfel, the Heisman Trophy, and the national title. Tremendous pressure on the Florida quarterback, not so much on the Penn State quarterback.
Whew, tough act to
Gator
follow.
fans are going to want to stick around and hear what you have to say about the run of the title. They do face one of the toughest schedules on the basis of opponents' winning percentage in '96. Michigan's got the most attractive home schedule ever: Colorado, Notre Dame, Iowa, Northwestern, and Ohio State. The sad thing, Lloyd Carr has hinted UM might soften it up in the future because the schedule strength isn't weighed into the rankings very much. Dollar issues seem to drive everything now. Nebraska needs home games, so they shell out $450,000 to crush Akron today. Central Florida is another designated rent or route. The big test is at Washington. It balances out those cupcakes on their schedule. The worst offenders for '97 have to be Kansas State, Clemson, and Texas A&M, a program that used to enjoy a challenge. The result, you really don't find out if those teams are any good until October. And Lee, we get far too many dull mismatches in September. It's bad for the game, my friend.
It's not bad for Akron and UCF because they got one phase going for them. Show me the money. They need the money to run their athletic programs. And another good thing about playing Nebraska on the road, and I know this from a perfect example, personal. Let me tell you something, my friend. It's better to get beat away from home where your friends and family can't see it in person. It doesn't look so bad on television.
You walk in with that broken leg and they say, what happened to you? I'd love to see these small schools. Like a great example, Marshall against West Virginia today. It gives them a chance to knock off the big dog. The reasoning and the logic behind it is what I disagree with. All it is about, as Chris mentioned, is revenue and also teams that are at the top remaining at the top and staying undefeated. With Michigan now thinking about going to a softer schedule, I think that's terrible for the game. The kids want to play in the big games. You go to Michigan, Nebraska, Notre Dame to play in national televised big-time games, and we're not seeing those now.
Oh, I agree, absolutely. We'll all kick in. We'll send Akron a check, and then Nebraska can schedule somebody, and we'll have some matchups that count in September. At Florida, where Spurrier is 45-0 against unranked teams, it's an unusually challenging opener. The team that'll play anybody, anywhere, often scare them, occasionally shock them. Southern Miss, it's made tougher by a rash of Gator suspensions. Now, our new teammate this season, Tony Barnhart, is down in the swamp today as much as he wanted to cover that Akron-Nebraska Classic. Tony?
Oh, I tell you what, good morning. It's, as you said, we are in the swamp here in Florida again. And one more note, Chris, about the Nebraska schedule. It is going to get better. In 1999, Iowa comes on, and in the year 2000, Nebraska is going to play Iowa and Notre Dame. But as you said, we're down in Florida. We're in a state where college football is not a game, but it's a way of life. But this morning, the headlines are mostly off the field, and they're mostly bad this morning. Let's start here at Florida, where 6 Gator football players have been suspended for tonight's game with Southern Mississippi. Now, the infractions range from everything from driving under the influence to possession of a loaded BB gun in the dorm room. Now, Coach Spurrier, I met with him yesterday. He's obviously not very happy, but right now his attitude is let's just get through this game, and all those 6 guys will be back next week for Central Michigan. Let's go over to Florida State. The news is not much better there. Coach Bobby Bowden has already lost 3 players for the season. Among those is cornerback Mario Edwards. He was kicked out of school after being involved in a domestic violence situation. 2 other players, defensive tackle Julian Pittman and safety Sean Key, have already been suspended for the opener next week against Southern California. And finally, down at Miami, they're at Baylor today, later on ABC. They're still waiting to hear on the status of wide receiver Jamie German. German, as you may recall, was involved with an agent. Miami offered a 2-game suspension to the NCAA, but they haven't gotten a ruling yet. The NCAA has the paperwork, and they have told Miami that next week, somewhere around Tuesday, they'll get a ruling on German, but they're a little nervous. They're afraid that it might be more than a 2-game suspension. Chris?
All right, Tony, included in those Florida suspensions, 3 starting offensive linemen. Hang around. We'll talk to you about that and other topics in a few minutes. Suspensions a factor everywhere, it seems. We could do a half-hour show on the legal blotter. Bring in Greta Van Susteren. Texas Tech faces Peyton Manning and the Vols without their excellent coverage corner, Tony Darden. Starting linebacker Eric Butler also sits out during an investigation into unauthorized long-distance phone calls. So now 5 of the top 9 defensive backs for Tech are either true or redshirt freshmen. Fellas, welcome to your baptism. We talked to Peyton Manning this week on film. He had a lot of respect for Darden. They were going to throw away from his side. Now he's got a green corner no matter which side he goes to.
Yeah, that's a big loss for Texas Tech. Darden could be one of the best cover corners in all of college football. Tennessee tonight, right away, will go right to the air. Don't forget, not only Peyton Manning is coming back, an experienced offensive line, he also has Marcus Nash, Andy McCullough, and his favorite receiver, Peerless Price, is ahead of schedule, expected to get 20 to 25 snaps tonight. But I won't be surprised at all to see Tennessee maybe try to establish that running game, an area that really slowed them down last year.
If Texas Tech has any chance at all, they're going to take those 3 300-pound linemen they have in the offensive line, put 2 tight ends, and run at the undersized Tennessee defense. That's the only way they can do it, because that way they can keep Peyton Manning on the sideline and maybe make the game close.
Zebby's going to have to try to run because they don't have anybody else to run the football.
And Texas Tech does have the 2nd heaviest offensive line in the country. The problem is Wisconsin is #1. They couldn't block anybody against Syracuse, and you're right, no experience at running back for Texas Tech. More on that game later on. Peyton Manning, the recent graduate, talks about Decision 97 and Economics 101.
I know the salary cap pretty well, and I know, you know, the incentive clauses and how to void out your contract. I went ahead and studied that up, so next year won't have to deal with that.
Randy Moss is a future NFL player also, but today he's got his mind on the Marshall, West Virginia Super Bowl down in that state. Florida, the defense of the national championship hinges on the replacements for Hilliard and Anthony and Johnson. We'll talk more about the Gators ahead in the show. And also the Gary Barnett syndrome. Does it mean less job security for coaches around the country?
You've heard of Nike Air, now there's Zoom Air, the thinnest, most responsive Nike Air cushioning ever, which means you run faster, just as Jerry Rice and Barry Sanders.
Zoom Air helps me to accelerate. Zoom Air helps me make sharper cuts.
So try Nike football shoes with Zoom Air. Who knows, maybe you can keep up with these guys.
Welcome back to closing moments. Back to
Joe? Wow, Daffy Duck! You're the greatest.
Thanks. Take a check.
Sure, Daffy. Just need some ID.
Are you serious? How many big cartoon stars come into this store?
Checks are a pain, but your bank has a better way, the Visa Check Card. And if your ATM card has a Visa logo on it, you've got one. It automatically deducts from your checking account everywhere Visa's accepted.
You're despicable.
Visa Check Card works just like a check, only better. What a maroon.
Fenwick, where were you yesterday? Didn't you get my page?
Sorry, I was out of range. Airplane.
Didn't you get my page?
I was out of range. Tunnels.
Didn't you get my page?
Out of range? Subway.
Introducing Skyward Plus guaranteed messaging from SkyTel, the first paging service that stores your messages when you go out of range and automatically delivers them when you get back.
Let me guess. Alien abduction. How'd you know?
So get Skyward Plus from SkyTel and get the message guaranteed.
Pizza Hut Supreme Pizza for Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I'll run it over to Junior.
Ooh, I'll take it.
It's on my way.
Oh, I'll take it.
I'll take it too.
Supreme.
Here's your pizza.
Hey, hey, hey!
Look at all these toppings. Pizza Hut's new Supreme Pizza with 6 very generous toppings. Now with everything from fresh sliced mushrooms to meteor pepperoni.
Hey, hey, hey!
It's only $8.99.
The all-time Cinderellas, Purdue went from 1-8 in 42 to 9-0 in 43. The 1940 Cardinals stunned Nebraska in the Rose Bowl. In the modern era, Florida had a 7-win increase from 79 to 80, but cut a few corners maybe. Gators got probation. But it was Northwestern's resurrection that gave doormats everywhere belief that anything is possible if we could only find the right coach. So a bunch of guys got fired, a whole lot of guys have new jobs, and no excuses, Lee.
Well, Chris, the 24 coaching changes in the offseason is the 9th highest in the history of college football. And the Gary Barnett's success at Northwestern, 2 back-to-back titles from the Big Ten, has caused some impatience in losing football teams. Now, some people in the coaching profession are calling it the Gary Barnett factor. What exactly is that?
Would it have something to do with having success, you know, in a program that had been down for a few years and then all of a sudden winning it all? If that's the Gary Barnett factor, I've been reminded of it many times.
Every coach feels pressure to turn his program around, not because of what another coach has done, but just because it's what he's there to do. So those guys came in to turn that program around regardless of what I had done or hadn't done.
What Gary Barnett has done is given the college football fan a reason to believe in fairy tales. Cinderella stories are in, and 5-year rebuilding plans are out.
Gary has, you know, raised the bar, if you will, for everyone from an expectation level.
I know to turn a program around in football, it does take some time. You don't do it in 1 year.
What's happened is I think there's a lot of other programs around the country that haven't been winning. And all of a sudden they start thinking, you know what? If they could do it at Northwestern, if they could do it at Kansas, if they could do it at Kansas State, and so on and so forth, why can't we do it there?
Northwestern and Kansas State, those are kind of our I suppose, our idols, are people that we can look at as great examples for what can be done. And obviously those things were not done over time, but they were done with a sound plan and principles that people stayed with.
This season, there are 24 new coaches in Division 1A, 4 in the Big Ten Conference alone, all looking to copy Barnett's recipe for success. Northwestern's turnabout is based in part on getting good players in an ever-shrinking recruiting pool. The top schools no longer have a stranglehold on the region's best players.
Certainly, with the reduction in scholarships from 105 to 85, there's 20 players less that each team has.
You can imagine if you're Michigan or Ohio State, back in the years when there were more players, when they could recruit so that you didn't get them.
They've had good players. I mean, you look at you know, at Autry and some of the other great players, Fitzgerald and some of the other great players they've had, you win with players. You win with good players.
I think Gary is the master at utilizing, you know, the climate of intercollegiate athletics and rules changes, and we got to do the same thing.
We've created hope that virtually anything can happen, and that you're not a victim of circumstance, that you don't have to always be in the bottom. Anything can happen. I think that's what we are. We're a ray of hope for everybody.
In my career, I took over 4 new teams, and I think the first thing you have to do is study the personalities of the team and then make your adjustment to them, because you've got to get the players to respect you first before they'll play hard for you, and that's more important, Kirk, than the X's and O's, I'm telling you.
I agree with you. I think in today's day and age in college football, there's a genuine lack of respect from the players for authority, and I think one of the things the coach has to do, the new coach coming in, has got to really teach the kids what he expects from them and get that respect back. The other thing, maybe keep a couple assistants from the previous staff to help in that tough transition of taking over. That way the kids are familiar with you, and also you're a little bit more familiar with the kids.
You softened up, Lee. Kirk saying he wants a player to come in there and, you know,
lay into him.
Lay down the law.
No.
You say,
but you have to study, because you lay down the law some guys and they'll tune you off and you'll never get them back.
So it's the instinct to know when to kick tail, which Dave Roberts has done at Baylor, or kind of pat in the back, which Bob Davies has had to do. Well, Steve Spurrier, he can certainly kick some tail, especially when it comes to a new quarterback. As Danny Werfel's replacement got what it takes to take heat from the boss.
PC Richard & Son gives you the sales tax advantage. This weekend, get 9% off our new low price on every item we sell. 9% off all home appliances. 9% off all electronics. 9% off all home computers. It's better than saving the sales tax. And pay no interest for 12 months on all Frigidaire and Maytag appliances with a PC Richard credit card. The PC Richard & Son sales tax advantage. Now through Labor Day. Be there.
This tornado touched down in western Kansas. Fortunately, it remained out in open country.
Looks pretty bad. That looks like about an F1 on the Fujita scale. Something like this. Now, imagine this. This is a 5. And this, that's a pickup truck.
So I guess a tornado is kind of like Mother Nature making a smoothie.
There you go.
A lot of college football, one plan: get cloned, get tickets, and hit the road. Here's a better game plan.
ESPN game plan.
Every week, college football games from conferences you can't normally see. Sent right to you.
The ESPN game plan. It can't be duplicated.
Check Friday's USA Today for Saturday's game plan.
Fate gave him a second shot at the Seminoles, and the Gators cashed it in. The program's first national title, but Werfel, Hilliard, Anthony left the NFL, leaving the Gators a marked team with new faces in key places. Spurrier counting on freshman receivers who've been struggling to catch on, let alone catch passes. And of course, quarterback Doug Johnson with a lot more professional at-bats than college completions so far. Lee, does he have any idea what he's in for?
My friend, no. He has no idea. But let me say something about Doug Johnson. He spent the summer playing minor league baseball. He was a third baseman that got into hot water right away because he failed the Spurrier conditioning drill. But let me tell you something. I spent the week with him, and he's not ready, but I think he has the capability of leading the Gators back. Doug, you're in the most glamorous and pressurized position in college football this year. Do you feel like you should have spent the summer getting ready for that challenge and not playing full baseball?
Half of me did, but I have a commitment to the Devil Rays. They didn't draft me to not do anything. They didn't pay me that money to throw the football around in the summers.
Lee, he didn't do a lot with football, obviously, playing 3 months of minor league baseball, and he didn't make the 12-minute run, so that was more upsetting than whatever he'd done football-wise, because that's something we asked everybody on the team to do. We don't ask those guys to run that 12-minute run just for funsies. It's important to make it because you have a responsibility to the team.
Do you feel like there's any specific things that helped you being ready to play college quarterback in pro baseball?
I do. I think that baseball is probably one of the most mental games as far as, you have to prepare yourself every day to play. And even if you have a good game the day before, you can go 0 for 4 with, 3 Ks. And it's so mental. And bringing that over to football, bringing that over to this offense, I think it's going to help me because I have to tell myself every play is not going to be a great play. Every play is not going to work. Every play is not going to score.
Doug, is there anything you have done mentally to prepare yourself for the Steve Spurrier eruption on the sideline, which is bound to happen?
Danny told me about it. He told me how to handle it last year. He just told me that Coach Spurrier is he's a perfectionist. I mean, yeah, you might throw a touchdown pass, but you might not have the right protection on, or might not have been the right play. But so every time that you come off the field, he's going to tell you what you could have done, that could have made that play a little bit easier, a little bit better.
He's just trying to constructively criticize you, to let you know what happened when things didn't work out, so that you'll do it better the next time. So you got to take what he's saying, learn from it, and then move on.
You know, Doug Johnson reminds me a lot of a young Steve Spurrier. He's aggressive.
I'm so competitive.
Wants to win.
I want to go out there and score every time on the field.
Very good athlete, handsome.
I never take what anyone tells me for granted.
Good-looking guy with a strong will.
That I'm so just hard-headed.
You think you're going to have any problems communicating, busting heads with him?
No, I don't think so at all, Lee. In fact, I've had very few problems with any of the quarterbacks. I guess one had a little problem with me at one time, but anyway.
But let me tell you something. You're going to be yanked in the first game, because you're not going to be perfect. How do you think you're going to react when he puts in another quarterback?
You know, I think I just have to tell myself that, you know, there's always the next game. We might disagree on some things, but whatever he says is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to go out as hard as I can.
It's a lot of pressure on the Gators, and I don't think they can repeat as national title holders, and I'll tell you why. Number one, and most important, I don't think they're mentally tough enough to take over that complacency situation that normally happens. Only 3 schools in 47 years have done it: Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Alabama. Number 2, the quarterback's too inexperienced, too much pressure on him. And number 3, and most important, they've got to win 3 games at the end of the year. Florida State, the NSCC championship, and a national title, and last year they were fortunate. Nope, they were lucky. Everything fell into place for them. That will not happen again.
First of all, you put my man on the hot seat.
That's right.
I mean, if he can get through a Lee Corso interview, he is ready for tonight's game. No problem against Southern Miss. I think this team is going to be able to bounce back. Great defense. I know that they lose all the skill on offense. I think Doug Johnson, you're going to find some new names. Travis McGriff, Jamie Richardson, Quezzy Green, who was there last year, and Freddie Taylor and Terry Jackson. They've moved Jackson to fullback, which is a threat that nobody even knew about last year. New little twist. Each year they add a new little wrinkle, and now Jackson's going to be a big player this year for him.
And Lee uses the word yanked. You're going to see Noah Brindise in the first half. Spurrier's already said that at quarterback. Jesse Palmer might play, so yanked is a strong
Lucky
word.
last year. What was that Sugar Bowl score anyway? 52 to
All right, guys,
20.
we'll pick this up later. Tony Barnhart's going to rejoin us now from Gainesville. You spent time with Spurrier. What's his feeling on Johnson's readiness, Tony?
Well, Chris, I spent some time with him late yesterday afternoon, and the main thing he's going to tell Doug Johnson before they go out and play tonight is, look, if you're going to take a sack, take a sack. Don't try to make a big play. Spurrier is concerned that Johnson may use his athleticism, and it may cause him to make more mistakes. But I tell you one thing, the guy who's most glad about Doug Johnson, that would be Yaquez Green, because he says, man, I get to go and run a lot more of those deep routes because that guy has got a gun.
Looking forward to seeing the guy they call Quezzy down there. Tony, thanks. It's a 6 o'clock kick tonight on the Deuce. Also anxious to see that Gator defense labeled potentially the best in school history. They'll face Lee Roberts, who broke Brett Favre's record at Southern Miss last year for yards in a season. Syracuse about set to tussle with NC State. We'll quickly hit on their dome opener for the season's most pleasant surprise so far. Fellow Big East heavy Miami is at Baylor. Some young no-names trying to carry on the Canes tradition, fill the shoes of Mr. Mack. That's ahead.
Pizza Hut Supreme Pizza for Ken Griffey Jr.
Hey, I'll take it.
I'll run it over to Junior. Ooh, I'll take it. It's on my way.
Oh, I'll take it.
I'll take it too.
Supreme. Here's your pizza. Hey!
Look at all these toppings. Pizza Hut's new Supreme Pizza with 6 very generous toppings. Now with everything from fresh sliced mushrooms to meteor pepperoni.
Hey!
It's only $8.99.
In my opinion, the single most important thing you can do for your car is to change the oil regularly. And most automotive technicians recommend changing your oil every 3,000 miles. I've been to Jiffy Lube, and I like their service. So if you don't do anything else for your car, get your oil changed every 3,000 miles. And I recommend Jiffy Lube.
And Jiffy Lube offers Pennzoil.
America's Jiffy Lube. Jiffy Lube, America's favorite oil change.
A satellite can beam images to your TV set across the far reaches of space. Perhaps more remarkable, Sony has a camcorder that can do it across your living room. only Sony has laser-link wireless connection for worry-free playback.
That's just before I throw up.
Sony Handycam camcorders.
Since 1851, the Bristol University School of Football has been an intellectual haven for asking questions and seeking answers. A place which challenges and enlightens young minds in the academic pursuit of football. Led by Dean Berman, the faculty prepares students to meet the challenges of the 21st century and beyond.
Here at Bristol University, we seek veritas, or the truth.
The Bristol University School of Football. To know is to understand.
On Campus is presented by Outback Steakhouse, proud sponsor of the 1998 Outback Bowl.
No such thing as a critical game in August? Well, maybe not, but for UCLA and Washington State, the earliest Pac-10 game in history sets up the push for a bowl game, the urgent goal for both programs. Should see lots of points in the Palouse, both sides shaky on defense, but solid and confident on offense. Bruin Skip Hicks has raised eyebrows. Kirk, he said, I'm gunning for 2,000 yards.
Now, Skip Hicks is bigger, faster, and stronger. UCLA hopes to be able to run the football all day behind 5 returning offensive linemen. We'll see.
Washington State's got a quarterback that's an athlete. He's a great high school basketball player. He's got size. Ryan Leaf is 6'6". He's got speed. He runs a 4.6 40. And I tell you what, he's got a gun for an arm. And in my opinion, at the end of this football season, you will see Ryan Leaf as good, if not a better pro prospect than Peyton Manning.
Wow.
He's
Strong
a great
statement.
athlete,
Strong
boy.
statement. You know what's going to help him? Another thing, he's got all these people coming back. He's got both receivers returning, Michael Black at tailback. I think Washington State wins this game very, very close because of their defense. I think they'll slow down Skip Hicks.
I agree with you.
Thank you, draft analyst Lee Corso Jr. Big 12, Oklahoma State with 5 starters and 5 backups suspended. Visit Iowa State, where Darren Davis takes over for two-time 2,000-yarder Troy. Darren will have to run behind a much greener offensive line than his big brother did, though. He's been a kickoff return star so far. The Big East opener sends Virginia Tech to Rutgers, which played him tough last year. Hokie Al Clark takes over for Jim Druckenmiller. Less arm, better wheels. He kind of patterns himself after ex-Cuse quarterback Marvin Graves. Same high school, same number. The Orange return home after a big win and a short week. Coaches that defense as good as it looked.
As I said in the opening show, the Syracuse defense has really improved. Main reason, speed. Speed and more speed. But the thing that impressed me, man, they'll hit you better than ever. Well, I tell you what, Syracuse has really improved.
Cuse rivals from Miami open a rebuilding Baylor, Kirk, which was dead last against the run.
Bad year for Baylor last year trying to stop the run. Look for Miami today with Magic Benton coming back with Ryan Clement. And as you mentioned, this defense of Baylor's in trouble. Edger and James and Miami's tailbacks will make it a long day. I think Miami rolls today.
Well, the Baylor rookie coach Dave Roberts says his Bears will throw nonstop and play hard. Baylor did neither last year. ABC regional coverage at 3:30 with Keith Jackson calling his first game ever from his alma mater up in Pullman. Our weekly traditional tour of the campuses starts in the East, the extreme East. It was the trip of a lifetime for the Harvard Crimson. March 29th, the Ivy Leaguers played the club team of Kyoto University in Japan. The first time since '77, schools from Japan and the States faced each other. Harvard won only by a touchdown, 42-35. 60-year-old Ashland College grad student Edgar Barreto returned to his alma mater this summer after 40 years for a master's degree in sports science and one last shot on the gridiron. Barreto figures to be more of a spectator this season, but his determination is inspiring. When he isn't warding off defensive linemen, San Diego State tackles surfing.
It's something that I plan to do for the rest of my life, so I continually do it, you know, as much as I can, but yet I don't, you know, substitute it for football in any way.
On Campus is presented by Outback Steakhouse for an Aussie good time over an awesome steak. Get to Outback Steakhouse. Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
Speaking of surfing, if you want to surf the net, look for randymoss.com. We'll talk about the lightning-quick lightning rod for controversy.
It's just about playing ball, nothing else. Nothing about the height, no individual things. I'm a team player.
A guy like that comes along once every 50 years if he has that kind of ability.
Need a hand?
No worries, mate. Nothing that a juicy steak and a bloomin' onion wouldn't fix. Want to join us?
Us?
Gordon, Sorry, he gets a little cranky when he's hungry.
For an awesome steak and an Aussie good time, get to Outback Steakhouse.
Let me guess, you're a kicker, right?
No rules, just right.
We were on vacation
Oh, your sunglasses.
when we realized we were sitting on a gold mine.
Rubber sunglasses.
Too bad none of the stores saw it that way.
So, any more bright ideas?
Actually, yes. Our own website. And before we knew it, we were selling shades to everyone under the sun.
Open a storefront on the internet with the most powerful network in the world.
The College Game Day crew prepares for prime time.
Back to you, Chris. Back to you, Chris.
They put on their game face, inspect the equipment, and check every last detail.
Do you use mineral or tap?
Tap.
Let's just stay focused.
Their mission, to give sports fans a primetime alternative to sitcoms and messy hospital dramas.
Well, call it the melee in the mountains. In West Virginia, it's the game. Front page news all month. The trash talking has been fierce among the fans. Marshall's move into 1A is almost an afterthought. It's the big boys from Morgantown. They've been waiting to play since 1923. In that last meeting, the West Virginia coach didn't even show up. He scouted Penn State next week while the Mountaineers romped 81-0. Today is Marshall's one shot at the established 1A power with whom they've shared the state. Tony Barnhart, hard to overstate how much that means to those folks down there.
Well, let me tell you how badly some of the Marshall fans wanted to go to this game. Now, they got 7,000 tickets. That was part of the contract. But then West Virginia took the rest of the tickets and made them part of a 3-game package. So at least 7,000 more Marshall fans bought 3 West Virginia games just to make that 200-mile drive down to Morgantown, West Virginia.
Well, let's hope the action stays on the field. West Virginia didn't get that #1 party school rating for nothing. You talked to Bobby Pruitt, the former Spurrier assistant. Does he believe Marshall has a chance to win today?
Well, the key, he does think they have a chance to win, Chris, but what he's worried about, he likes his skilled people, but what he doesn't know is if his line can block their line for 60 minutes and give his skilled people a chance to make some big plays.
One of the most interesting games of the day. All right, now further elevating the hype is the man who tied the touchdown reception record set by Jerry Rice of Mississippi Valley State with 28. Randy Moss caught that many in his first season for Marshall. His talent is unequaled, his potential unlimited, but his full circle journey from prep folk hero to cast-off to college football refugee has created some scars. Recently, Moss spoke openly with Curry Kirkpatrick about his considerable troubles and talents.
His athletic ability is just so much better than what you've seen before. You have to double take and say, did that really happen? Can he do that?
Randy's such a great athlete that he could roll out of bed and run a 4.3 in the morning.
Lou Holtz called him the best high school player he's ever seen. He was in the top 5 high school players coming out, so it's usually a given that those guys are all going to the big time schools.
So why didn't Randy Moss go big time? Why has the most honored and gifted athlete in the history of West Virginia, a kid from the hills and hollows of Rand and Bell, whose name came to surpass even the legendary Jerry West from nearby Cabin Creek, wallowed in near obscurity? Why has the career of the can't-miss Moss been somewhat a mess?
I think I had a dream one time that Lou Holtz called and woke me up out of bed telling me, well, we're ready to recruit you and this and this and that. You can come in and play right away. And the phone rang and woke me up out of my dream, and it was Lou Holtz, and I was just so shocked.
Shock turned into nightmare after a racial slur against a friend at his mostly white high school led Moss into joining a brutal fight in which he stomped a schoolmate. Moss was charged with malicious wounding and sentenced to 30 days in jail.
I think that all the anger in myself just was built up inside of me, that, you know, the racial slurs and the racial talk going around. I mean, it was just, DuPont High School was just so bad.
The incident compelled Notre Dame to rescind Moss's scholarship. but Holtz did suggest an alternative.
I think this was his exact words. If I can't have you, then there's only one other guy in this country that I recommend you to, and that's Bobby Bowden down at Florida State.
Stipulating he redshirt, St. Bobby signed the fleet receiver as quickly as Moss ran the 40-yard dash.
You could see greatness. We kind of felt like he about as good an athlete as we've ever had here.
He would have scored, predictably, a touchdown a game. He had that kind of hands. He was like a man playing with boys at Florida State. That's a pretty good league.
Then came Moss's second strike. He tested positive for marijuana, and poof, another scholarship swirled up in smoke.
What's going to happen now? You know, I lost another chance at Florida State, another university, and now I can't play ball. And I just thought it was over.
When a troubled man's reach exceeds his grasp, it's probably a good idea to start over. Back home, back to the familiar surroundings where he grew up. When Randy Moss's football dreams self-destructed at Notre Dame and Florida State, he came back to West Virginia, to Huntington, to Marshall University. Country road, take me home.
He understood his mistakes, understood what the limitations and what he needed to do to right himself, and that was really it.
By transferring to Division I AA, Moss could play and dominate immediately. His talent proved so otherworldly, the Marshall coaches gave him an affectionate nickname, the Freak.
We get out on the field and all of a sudden some things start happening you only see in the circus. You think it's an act. Balls bouncing off heads, and he comes out with it and said, oh, he's just a freak.
A freak is very rare around here.
Until you do something freaky.
Right, so if I do something that, you know, it has to deal with being freaky, then that's where they say, here come the freak, or that was freaky, or something like that. So that's where it comes from.
Stardom awaits if the Freak avoids more freakish trouble with the law, such as an altercation last November with the mother of his daughter. Both parties have asked that pending battery charges against them be dropped.
Just a misunderstanding. We're still cool, we're still friends, you know. I still have love for the both of them, so it's no hatred.
I think he's had a lot, to deal with at a young age. He had a daughter when he was just turned 17, and then all the stardom in this little town.
For every touchdown pass that he catches, for all the obstacles that he overcomes, there's always an article beside that one talking about his history, his past.
Past being prologue, ugly history be damned. The sweet irony is that Moss has grown into a big-time talent after all.
I'm just excited to watch, so if I'm gonna get the ball in my hands, so like that, just hold on to your hat. I'm about to do something. So if I stay healthy, I got a show to put on.
And Moss is in for the touchdown. That was just too easy.
No shortage of confidence there. It's kind of a foregone conclusion that Moss will declare for the draft after this season and be picked very highly. A marked man for the West Virginia secondary, not just because he's talented, but because he has made some comments about the Mountaineer program.
He's been talking a lot of trash. It's because he's a confident receiver, and he should be. He has all the qualities to make him maybe one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in the entire country. He has the size at 6'5", the speed. He runs a 4.3. But the trait that really separates him from most of the other receivers in the country is what he does after the catch. He has that fifth gear after making the grab. Look at the separation here. He simply leaves people behind him with that desire to just get to the end zone. Today in this football game against West Virginia as a heavy underdog, you're going to have to find Randy Moss, find some open seams, but the important thing is you got to protect Chad Pennington. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, can a receiver dominate enough to make the difference in this game when the line's obviously superiority for West Virginia? Next up, the echoes of the Bear. Still heard in Alabama. It can help Crimson Tide coaches or haunt them. We'll hear from the new man, Mike Dubose.
people will tell you, oh, Rolling Rock's got the long neck so your hand doesn't get the beer all warm when you're holding it. The truth is, it's a survival of the fittest thing, natural selection. Think about it. Hot day, beer's in a cooler, ice is melting, water level rising. You got a longer neck, you don't drown. Basic evolution. I'm thinking like writing a pamphlet.
Hi, at Gateway, getting the computer you want is simple. Let's say this is your basic computer. You want lots of memory? Sure. Great speakers. Maybe more memory. No problem. A big monitor? Maybe not that big. The new Pentium 2 processor. See, we build your computer exactly how you want it. So, it ends up as individual as you are.
Gateway computers feature the Intel Pentium 2 processor. Call 1-800-GATEWAY. We'll build one for you.
Pizza Hut Supreme Pizza for Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I'll run it over to Junior.
Ooh, I'll take it.
It's on my way.
Oh, I'll take it.
I'll take it too.
Supreme.
Here's your pizza.
Hey, hey, hey!
Look at all these toppings.
Pizza Hut's new Supreme Pizza with 6 very generous toppings. Now with everything from fresh sliced mushrooms to meteor pepperoni.
Hey, hey, hey!
It's only $8.99.
Opening day at Mississippi State will mean heavy hearts. Before kickoff with Memphis, Bulldog players and fans will pay tribute to Kiefer McGee, the star tailback who drowned in a swimming pool August 5th, the day that varsity teammates reported for camp. All season, State's jerseys will include a patch embroidered with the name Kiefer. Bama won't have suspended tailback Dennis Riddle for the opener with Houston. He's in the doghouse, but with Curtis and Sean Alexander, no relation, there's hardly a drop-off. It's the Mike Dubose debut when, as Reese Davis reports, the new coach knows he'll always live in the shadow of the coach.
One man, one school, one legacy.
We won many games in spite of me. And maybe I've helped win a few or contributed to win a few, but I've never won a game, and the players win the games. I don't care about who's coaching.
In theory, that may be true. In reality, outside of the 1992 National Championship, the state of Alabama football hasn't been the same since the departure of the Bear.
Alabama football is the convergence of an awful lot of forces. We've got all this kinetic energy that's flowing around 365 days a year, and it affects the players. The players expect to win.
The Bear won 6 national titles and 13 SEC championships, setting a problematic standard of excellence for those who succeeded him. For Tide fans, anything short of an SEC crown is unacceptable.
The pressure is brought to bear on the coaches, but it's what I like to call a good kind of pressure, because it's a pressure to win, but everybody's behind you. If they accept you as the coach, and they will accept Mike Dubose, he's one of the family.
Dubose is family. As a member of the Tide's 1973 national championship team, he learned Bryant's lessons well. Despite his new title, Dubose knows only one man is the coach.
When you just speak of a coach and just say the coach, everybody knows you're talking about Coach Bryant. I think it's a big mistake when you had a chance to be around and play for the greatest coach of all time. I think it's foolish to not try to take some of the things. There's nobody out there that expects more out of this program than I expect out of this program. There's nobody out there that expects more out of me than I expect out of myself. And I think that's really when you start to feel pressure, when people outside have a higher expectation than you do, and that's just not the case.
Next, Peyton Manning on Decision 97, the event that made March 5th a state holiday.
People ask me to this day, why'd you do it? You know, tell me. It's between you and I won't tell anybody. Okay, I'm going to tell you.
Some people seem to care more about cleaning a $20 or $30 shirt or blouse than maintaining or cleaning their automobile. What will your shirt or blouse be worth at trade-in time? Considerably less than a well-maintained automobile. Add value to your vehicle by keeping it looking brand new. Bring it to Major Car Wash, where every vehicle is washed with Zepp manufacturing products with Rust-Oleum additives. Major Car Wash, Route 1, South Brunswick.
geese in your yard? Watch out. They're eating your grass, and that mess they leave behind can cause serious damage and disease. Now make unwanted geese leave. Just spray Rejexit on your grass. Geese simply hate grass that is treated with Rejexit. Use Rejexit and geese will leave your yard to find a better food source. Rejexit is EPA approved. Rejexit is biodegradable and harmless to the geese, humans, pets, your lawn, and the environment. Get Rejexit now. Call 1-800-HADBIRD for dealer locations near you.
ESPN has been working to improve sports for the fan.
Designed to extend the season for fans in places like frigid Lambeau Field, the Toasty Ball is heated by a small plutonium furnace. But at 130 degrees, it's too hot to handle.
But experiments like Toasty Ball did lead to a breakthrough in coverage for all sports. ESPN Sports Zone. With Chris Mortenson's column, drive charts, everything you need to be a better fan. ESPN Sports Zone. Technology for you.
This evening, as the sun slides over the Smoky Mountaintops, the Tennessee Volunteers will leave their pregame dorm in coats and ties, walk down the middle of the street toward massive Neyland Stadium. Folks wearing orange and head to toe will crowd in to cheer and offer up high fives. Near the bottom of the hill, the band will break into Rocky Top. Peyton Manning will feel like a 10-year-old. He'll have goosebumps. He will not wish he was carrying a New York Jets clipboard around the Kingdome this weekend. He'll begin to savor the senior season that very few expected him to see.
That first game's going to be fun, just to come out here and, I'm back. I'm glad to be back here with all you, all my friends here, all 100,000 of them. I really played last year thinking I was going to leave. It was my last season, my last home game against Kentucky. I kind of took a few extra moments in the stadium after the game and said, this is it.
But in March, Vols fans got their fondest wish. The game's top prospect chose college over cash.
Everybody knew what I was going to do before I did. Everybody knew I was leaving. I said, I keep telling you, I don't know what I'm going to do. Just wait and I'll let you know.
1:15 in the morning. Wakes me from a dead sleep. Simple. Says, Coach. He said, Coach. And I said, hey, Peyton, is that you? And yes, Coach, it's me. I'm staying. I want to stay my senior year. And I didn't know what to say. I said, Coach, or Peyton, that's great. I love you. A couple other things. We hung up. I didn't go to sleep till daylight.
He called a lot of people and said, what would you do? A lot of players, a lot of former players.
Wake Forest was playing in Charlottesville. I was up there for the game.
And they told me he was out there, and I was like, I know Peyton Manning, but it can't be the one you're talking about.
And I said, Tim, I'm kind of in a similar situation you were in, and I was wondering just kind of your thought process. And he said, well, I really didn't think twice about it. I said, I liked college. I wanted to stay.
He asked me, too. He said, what would you do today? I said, no, you can't ask me that, because you decide, and it'll be the right thing.
If I would have left, it definitely would have said that's selfish, but I decided to stay because it was selfish too, because I wanted to be around these people one more year, wanted to be around Coach Fulmer and his staff, Marcus Nash. I was in his wedding last weekend. I mean, that's a great experience. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was in training camp right now.
Second shot. Blue, go!
Let's play true or false.
All right.
Came back because he didn't want to play for Parcells and the Jets.
Not true at all.
Came back because his girlfriend made him.
That's not true at all.
Came back because you can make more money next year in the NFL.
Not true at all.
You grew up in the state, played here. People talk about Peyton could join Davy Crockett status. As a Tennessean, you know what that means.
I do understand what that means, and he might be bigger than Davy Crockett right now.
Got you ready. Brown.
The penthouse?
Yes.
Even moving temporarily into an athletic dorm is a media event.
It's the official start of it. Moving in, got curfew tonight at 11, then I'll let you know that it's football time here.
Manning knows returning is a gamble, as evidenced by his $7 million insurance policy from Lloyd's of London, guarding against a career-ending injury.
Ever since what happened to Cooper, my older brother, when he was injured as a freshman up there at Ole Miss, and just like that, they said, Cooper, your career's over, and there's nothing he can do about it. And so ever since that happened to Cooper, I've kind of taken this new approach that every practice, every play could be my last. I mean, I could get hurt walking back to the dorm after this interview. And so you kind of just keep your priorities in order, your education, your faith, your family, all that has to come before football.
If your family needed money, do you think you'd made a different decision?
Possibly, but you know, people ask all these different what-if situations. I'm the kind of guy that just deals with reality and you know, and the way things are. And so, you know, financially, it wasn't really a factor. It never really came into it. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it. Some guy drove by and yelled 4. Nah. You don't get that one. I'd rather play in front of 100,000 every day than hit on number 1 in front of a gallery. That's the most nerve-wracking thing to me.
Glad to have him around this year?
Oh, yeah, he's loosened up quite a bit since his freshman year. First, he was like you wouldn't crack a smile. You never see him out, but now he's out cracking jokes. He's the funny man on the team now.
I've loosened up a little bit.
Quite a bit.
As Manning trades in his clubs for cleats, he knows his championship dreams won't be realized until he conquers rivals Alabama and Florida.
People are going to judge September 20th or October 18th, but the minute I made my decision, I knew it was the right thing. I did what I wanted to do. I'm going to have to live with the consequences. In the fall, it's, as they say around here, it's football time in Tennessee, and I'm here to play football.
Don't think the NFL will care, but Peyton has a major hitch in that golf swing. He's a student of Tennessee football. He wants his place on the Wall of Fame. He's kind of seen how his dad is still a hero down in Ole Miss. He also saw how many Vols fans and some coaches even turned their backs a little bit on Heath Schuler when he left a year early for the NFL. I think it all factored in for him.
Well, Chris, I think the major factor in determining Manning's legacy at Tennessee is this year's Florida game. I don't think Alabama has anything to do with it, because if he doesn't beat Florida, he will have never beaten them, and it'll be like that pro golfer who's the best golfer in the world that's never won a major. This kid has got to beat Florida. Like it or not, that's his legacy.
They're all going to remember that game.
Absolutely.
Because that's what they've remembered so far. I think one of the challenges that Peyton Manning will face this year is just playing within himself. Sometimes when a player gets a lot of the hype, there's a tendency to try to make some things happen. Last year, for example, against Memphis, when things weren't going all that well, tried to squeeze a few in there, came up with a couple interceptions, and of course we remember the game against the Florida Gators, the momentum favoring Florida, tried to squeeze it in there. I think in this football game, or actually with Peyton Manning rather, I think he is a player that has a great deal of confidence, but the key is going to be just to play within himself and not force too many things.
Maybe he'll get that major.
I agree with Coach's
Maybe he'll get the major. Davis Love III did. Zebby Lethbridge, his counterpart from Texas Tech, has looked sharp in practice. He had better be sharp without an experienced tailback. That follows the Residence Inn scoreboard. That's at 7:30 Eastern. Following us, Virginia Tech. Take a look at Ken Oxendine. Hokies will take on the Scarlet Knights just minutes from now.
Pizza Hut Supreme Pizza for Ken Griffey Jr. Yeah, I'll take it. I'll run it over to Junior. Ooh, I'll take it. It's on my way. Oh, I'll take it.
I'll take it too.
Supreme. Here's your pizza.
Hey!
Look at all these toppings.
Pizza Hut's new Supreme Pizza with 6 very generous toppings. Now with everything from fresh sliced mushrooms to meteor pepperoni.
Hey!
It's only $8.99.
Expose the danger.
Who are you?
I'm a federal agent.
Stop the threat. Destroy the enemy. Steven Seagal, Fire Down Below.
Stick around, we're going to have some fun.
Rated R. Ignite September 5th at a theater near you.
We're looking at my Discover card statement. I like hats. I've been known to wear a baseball cap in an interview if it seemed appropriate. It makes people think that you came up with this really cool look.
How many credit cards make a statement like that?
When really you were just having a really bad hair day.
It pays to Discover.
Most cellular companies charge you for roaming. They charge you for landline connections. And by rounding all calls up to the next minute, they charge you even more. It's a wonder they don't charge you for smelling salts. Get smart. Get Nextel, the national all-digital wireless network.
Tomorrow, Chipper Jones is ready to call this his team, and the Braves are ready to follow him into October. But first, they roll into Fenway to take on the Sox. Braves-Red Sox, the Sunday night baseball game of the week, tomorrow at 8 on ESPN.
What's nice for working mothers here is the new Kids Center. It fosters a family atmosphere.
Today, we're going to read The Rumble in the Jungle Book.
And when your teacher's the reigning WBA champ, you got to listen, which is nice.
I don't care what you're seeing on TV. No biting.
We're not letting you guys go on opening day without telling me what's going to happen 4 months from now in the title picture.
I really think the Florida Gators have a great chance to repeat. I love their defense, probably the best front seven in college football. And on offense, they're going to gel together. Doug Johnson's going to be fine, and he has a boatload of receivers.
Nebraska, urgency and redemption. 2 key words.
Enough said.
They win it.
We're going to be here all day long. Carl Ravitch joins these guys at halftime. But you ready? First game of the season.
Let's go.
Big East opener. Virginia Tech trying for that 3rd straight Alliance Bowl. Visits Rutgers. We take you out to Rutgers Stadium now. Today, Barnett, Bill Curry, and Dave Ryan. Guys?
Thanks, Chris. We are in the new Rutgers Stadium.